Okay, so I hope everybody enjoyed the quick break. Now it's time to dive a little bit deeper into one of the solutions, Optimize. I am Patricio Zambrano, a technical consultant with Camunda here in North America. So let's do it. The first thing I'm going to talk about is why Optimize. Okay, Bernd gave you a little bit of an overview of why we have Optimize and how we can help you. I'm going to quickly elaborate on that and why we have that product. But before we jump into it, let's quickly look at this process automation cycle and where does Optimize fall into. So first we have Analyze, as you can see here. We have Analyze. Okay, this is the part where you analyze your business processes. Then we have Design. With Design, this is the part where you can design your processes or decisions with a tool or something similar. Then we have Implement, right? This is the part where you can actually deploy those processes and implement them in an engine. Later on, we have Operate. Operate, which I will later talk about more, is used to troubleshoot those processes or decisions. In between Operate and Analyze, we have a key missing part which we like to call Improvement. And this is where Optimize falls into. So let's quickly understand why is that. Okay, now we understand why Optimize, right? So we understand a couple of challenges that exist out there. And the key challenge that we saw was that there were organizations that were having trouble identifying the problems in their processes. All right, so we saw many companies, because of these, developing their own business intelligence or data warehousing tools to identify these problems in the processes. Now, we also saw the need for organizations to quickly do this, right? So because of that, we came up with a product called Camunda Optimize, right? Camunda Optimize is a solution that allows you to quickly identify bottlenecks from your processes. So if I did not really confuse you too much, I'm just kidding. You should consider Optimize if you are currently automating business processes with Camunda, right? You want to discover and understand performance bottlenecks quickly, and you want to avoid the hustle and bustle of using a third-party tool or developing your own business intelligence or data warehousing solution. Okay, now before we jump into the live demo, the fun part, we're just going to quickly walk through some of the features that we're going to see in the demo. And to understand what the features look like, let's dive a little bit deeper into the Camunda ecosystem and where Optimize falls in, all right? So Bernd talked about how Optimize is meant for the process owners and how it queries information from the core engine. It pulls the information from the core engine. Now, it does this through the REST API, right? It's also very flexible, meaning that when you pull information from the engine, you can modify the variables that are being pulled. So let's say that a variable in one of your processes is New York, right? City name is New York. So when that is true, then you can add another variable, let's say the tax of a percentage, state tax or something, right? You can modify that information. You can also connect multiple engines onto the, you can pull information from multiple engines onto the database of Optimize. Now, this can give you a lot of performance benefits because then you don't have to store all of your information in the SQL database. You can just kind of offload it to the Elasticsearch database of Optimize. So think about in context of microservices or just different use cases. All right, so these are some of the things that we're going to look in the demo. We're going to look at how to work with reports, how to build reports. We're going to look at some dashboards, how to get alerted when some performance goals are not met. And we're also going to do some quick branch analysis. So your question is, do we have to? Oh, yeah, so it's, we have a configuration file where you specify the REST endpoints where your engines are located. So his question was, how do we pull information onto Elasticsearch? Is this like automatic, right? So it's semi-automatic, you know, kind of a car. Right, you need to do some configuration, but then you can pull information from multiple engines. Yeah. All right, so let's get to it. And today we're gonna solve a couple of challenges based on an invoice process. And to better understand what that process looks like, I'm gonna walk you through this process using my modeler and a process that I built here. Okay. Okay, so what we have here is an invoice process. And as you can see, the invoice is first received by what we categorize as the team assistant. Later on, this invoice is persisted using the Java Persistence API to an external database besides Camunda. And then we use a business rule task to implement a couple of business rules and decide and assign an approver for this invoice. The approver of this invoice will then decide whether to approve it or not by using this user task. And later on, if the invoice is approved, we will move on to another business rule task that will determine the commercial paper rate. So this invoice process is a special one. We're using this for short-term funding. So we're determining the commercial paper rate, and then we will notify the creditor or dealer about the payment and later on, we use another user task to pay the dealer or creditor and archive this invoice. Right? So in the end, we can either approve the invoice or not approve it. So now that we kind of understand the invoice process, I'll move on to Optimize over here. And of course, please don't look, I'm typing in my username and super secret password. And we're going to start off with reports first, looking at how those reports work and how they can help us. So let's imagine a situation where you have an operations manager calling me, the process owner, and he's telling me, Patricio, we have a couple of suppliers that are complaining that they're not getting paid on time, and I would like to maintain that good relationship with those suppliers. So can you please look into what the possible bottlenecks could be? So I'm like, sure. I will use my Camunda Optimize to identify those performance bottlenecks. So the first thing I will do here is I will go into the average time to complete an invoice process. I've pre-built this, right? You can build this by yourself and set your own variables and configure it as you like. And as you can see here, the average time to complete the invoice process is about 2 weeks. So that kind of tells you that it's taking a long time, but it really doesn't tell you who, where in what team, or who is responsible for the invoice taking too long. It's very broad bottleneck. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go to this other report that I created, and I will look at the average duration per task. And here, as you can see, the review invoice is highlighted in hardcore red, right? It's telling you this task is taking 4 days. So now as a process owner, you're like, okay, I think I know where the problem might be. The problem might be related to the team assistant group. Maybe there's too much work, or something is going on. Now, but let's say you only want to see information that you care about. Maybe you only care to see information that is to see the highlighted red color whenever tasks are taking longer than 3 days. So what we can do here, we can use target value comparison and come here and say, show me the review invoice tasks that are taking longer than 3 days. So I click here. So now it's just showing me that information. Now you can do a lot of things here. You can add start date, duration, variable filters, and many other things. So a variable could be something like this. Only show me information of invoice processes where the approver is demo or number 1. That's actually a real person name. I don't know how that came, but anyways, demo purposes. And okay, so that's the average duration per task. You can also dive deeper into it, right? You can see information like, okay, how much workload did Mary had during the month of March? Yeah, and you can edit that information and play around with it a little bit. There's also raw information from this. So you can extract all the information all the variables that belong to the invoice process, and you can export them to a Excel file or other cool open source tools out there, and you can play with it, create different reports and identify other bottlenecks. Analysis, right? So analysis is meant for, it's something we like to call branch correlation. So here, you can use this to identify what-if scenarios that may be causing performance bottlenecks. And so what I can do here is I can select a gateway here and an end event. And this information, what it's telling me is that every time, one second. What is that? Let me just reload to remove that visual problem. Okay, there you go. So what this is telling me here is that every time the sequence flow went through the yes path, okay, it followed this path over here and ended at the invoice getting processed. So you can do these type of correlations here and make business decisions, right? Alerts, okay, alerts can help you get alerted when some performance goals are not getting obtained. So let's say if the team assistant group has more than 20 invoices that they need to process during month of March, you can get an alert. If the invoice process is taking longer than X amount of time, get alerted. If the review invoice task is taking also too long, get alerted, right? So, and these are just some simple examples. Yep.
Hi, I have a couple of questions. Is it right to say that, you know, the way you described Optimize, that would work for a single type of BPMN, meaning for a business process, you know, you're able to investigate everything from a business standpoint, you know, performance bottlenecks.
Yep.
Right? Is this also extensible across multiple BPMN types? So for example, I own multiple process types, right? If I want to go see what's happening across all of them, will this also extend to do something?
So when you say multiple BPMN processes, do you mean like multiple processes that are deployed using Camunda? Yeah. I mean, you could see, I mean, right now I showed you like a report for the invoice process, but you could select many other processes that are running with Camunda engine. So like John's.
Processes they were engaged in over the course of the week.
So you're saying, so let's say that you have, well, maybe you can repeat the use case, or if it's too complicated, we can discuss. So. Uh-huh.
And all those processes have one user group account.
Yeah.
Right? And I want to look at that user group to see which users in that group are performing and which ones aren't. Right? So I want to see, you know, is it possible for me to look at a user basis, a user by user across all the processes? Is that possible?
Across all the processes. Huh. Okay, I understand your question.
So typically what happens is we have operations groups that work across multiple processes, right? So our typical use case is it's not easy for us to go look process by process. So we'd rather have something more macro where we can pull across multiple processes.
Yeah, I see. So you like process A, B, C, and then there's John is an employee who is approving invoices in different scenarios, different processes. Let's talk about that during lunch. I think that requires a little bit more deep dive. Yeah. Okay, and so Madeline is telling me I'm running out of time. So I will wrap up with this discussion by sharing with you guys that if you are a prospect or a customer, right, that you can reach out to us to have these deep dive discussions and talk about your use cases and whether or not Optimize might fix your business challenges that you may have. So we're ready for you. I would talk to Frederick. Yeah, that's a Frederick question. And with that said, oh.
I have a quick question about packaging. The heat map is part of the open source, right? It's not.
The heat map part of the open source, no. Okay, so we can catch up during lunch if you had some additional questions. And there goes the mic. Thank you.